April may be the best month yet for the price of Bitcoin. Next on your 4-Minute Bitcoin. Today's show is from a post by Joseph Young at Cointelegraph and brought to you by Swan Bitcoin. The US dollar is starting to weaken once again as sellers are pushing the US dollar index known as the DXY. They're pushing it downwards, which could strengthen the momentum of Bitcoin in the near term. Alternative assets like Bitcoin are priced against the US dollar. So when the DXY starts to drop, it often causes Bitcoin to rally up against the dollar. According to Hugler Zepix, a market analyst at Welt, the US dollar share of global reserves is rapidly declining as countries like Russia, well, they're pursuing a de-dollarization strategy and they're opting in for gold instead. When the pandemic was declared in the first quarter of 2020, the demand for the dollar increased as investors fled to cash because it's the global reserve currency. However, due to various factors, including the presidential election and the negative outlook on COVID throughout the past year, the dollar struggled to outperform other currencies like the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. Now, historically, April has been a strong month for Bitcoin throughout the past 10 years, recording positive gains for 5 consecutive years in a row starting 2016. Atop the favorable macro factors for Bitcoin, Lex Makovsky, the CIO at Makovsky Capital, pinpointed that miners recently began ramping up their Bitcoin holdings. On a single day, miners added 4,380 Bitcoin, which the investor described as a growing trend by saying, "It looks like a trend indeed." Now, when miners sell their holdings, Bitcoin usually sees a pullback as it can cause heavily leveraged orders in the futures market to see cascading liquidations. But if miners are hoarding Bitcoin or hodling Bitcoin, as we like to say, and stacking sats with the expectation that it'll appreciate, it actually reduces the probability of a severe sell-off for the foreseeable future. In the near term, whether Bitcoin remains above the $58,000 support area, well, that remains key. If it continues to consolidate above it, the chances of it sending a strong breakout above the $60,000 resistance level is greatly increases. So what do you think April is going to do for Bitcoin? Do you think it's going to be a good month? Do you think it's going to be a bad month? I'm sure hoping for a good month. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, as always. In this episode, well, it's brought to you by Swan Bitcoin. Now, Swan Bitcoin allows you to buy Bitcoin with dollar cost averaging, and you can buy as little as $10 worth of Bitcoin at a time. I'm actually an advisor to Swan and even own a small piece of the company, so you know I'm going to really like what they're doing over there. So if you use the link, swanbitcoin.com/Gary, you can buy, or you can receive $10 worth of Bitcoin free for signing up. So go ahead, take a look at swanbitcoin.com/Gary and see what you think. I'm Gary Leland, the Bitcoin Boomer, and thanks for joining me on another 4-Minute Bitcoin Show. This is a BitBlockBoom.com production.